As Varus ADC in the current meta, pretty good. Actually, maybe this is good timing to do the tier list I was talking about. Hello, YouTube. Hello. I wanted to make ADC tier list for current patch, so 14.9. And I also wanted to make a prediction ADC tier list for 14.10. Both look at the current state of ADC, update my current tier list, and like where I see the champs. I want to put every champ in D tier, I think, so I can like rate every champ fresh. So first we're gonna do a 14.9 ADC tier list, and this will be all of the current changes of what is currently live, and then we'll make another tier list of the champions that I think will benefit the most of the changes that are coming in the next patch.
Doesn't get better than this.
Also, let's open up some useful sites. So one site that you should know of is lolalytics, lolalytics.com. And this site is nice because it shows you the changes per patch in the win rate and for buffed and nerfed champs. Let's start with Kog Maw here. I think Kog Maw, for me, he still probably would fall into A tier. I think he's just like, he's one of the highest win rate ADCs. Pretty low pick rate though, and pretty niche pick. I think he does really well with Lulu, Milio, Braum, but overall, a really strong hyper carry that can itemize a lot of HP and a lot of defensive stats, so he gets really tanky, while also doing a very high mix of damage, while also having a lot of range. His biggest weakness is the fact that he has no mobility and kind of doesn't have a passive, especially later on, which can make him really difficult to play into a lot of assassins or high range comps where he can't really auto attack much. These just can be tough to play against. And Ezreal, I think Ezreal might for me fall into B tier now. I just feel like he's not a very, very scary champion right now. And it seems like the win rate seems to suggest the same. I feel like it's been a few patches where he just hasn't really had very many good items. And maybe I could even put him into C tier. But would I want to put him into C tier? That might be a bit too low, no? He's so versatile. I think next patch he might be C tier. I think next, we'll leave him in B tier now. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not spoil ourselves too much. I think we'll put him into B tier. He's just not as good as he was. He can't really compete with a lot of the champs being played right now. And I think with Xayah being really played, he just doesn't do that well. And also, a lot of crit items have progressively gotten stronger, while Ezreal doesn't really abuse any of those changes. And then we have Zeri here. I think Zeri falls into low A tier, maybe even B tier. Maybe even B tier. I'm not feeling Zeri that much. I don't know, it feels like a mix of the different changes all happening at once. The game pacing in high elo being quite high right now. I just feel like whenever I see a Zeri on the enemy team and whenever I'm playing Zeri right now, it's a little bit lackluster, and I just don't feel that scared. I think she's high B tier, low A tier, while I'd say Ezreal would probably fall into low B tier. Right now they're next to each other, but you know, we'll change that up as we go. And then Yasuo, I think Yasuo is A tier. I think if you get a good Yasuo game and you're good at playing Yasuo, he's really fucking OP. But he does have some tough matchups. But if you play Yasuo into something like Jinx or Draven or Kog Maw or Jhin, I think, bro, if you're a good Yasuo, you got yourself a free win right there, to be honest. You got yourself a free win. Then Nilah. So Nilah did get some changes this patch. Now, I'm not really... It was intended to make her a little bit weaker, and it looks like they maybe were able to do that. As if we look at the win rate, she went from having a very high win rate at 54.5 to having 51.5. So I guess maybe the nerf was actually bigger than I expected. I haven't personally played or seen her since the changes, so it's a bit hard for me to judge, but just judging off the data, I'd probably put her somewhere alongside Ezreal, a low B tier, low B tier. Yeah, low B tier. I think that's fair. Then Twitch also got pretty big nerfs, but I think were pretty deserved. He, while having a really high win rate, really high pick rate, he got 50 less HP level 1, less W slow on AP. I think this is not too big, to be honest. And then 10 less AD on ult at all ranks, which I think makes Twitch a lot weaker early game. One of the biggest reasons why it was hard to punish Twitch early game was because he had nearly 700 HP level 1. Like if you buy D-Blade, you had nearly 800 HP level 1. it's hard to kill a champ that has 800 HP level 1. That's a lot of HP to get through. At 50 HP less, even though the health growth makes it so you eventually get the same HP, it just makes it so you're a lot more squishy early game, and it makes that weak early game that Twitch has a lot easier to punish. So that's why I think that Twitch now falls on the lower side of B tier. I put them into A tier last patch, and they also slightly hit the Twitch AP build, but the Twitch AP build is also getting hit from the HP nerf, of course, as he also has a weak early game. And then we have Ashe. I think Ashe is low A tier for me. Low A tier. I think low A tier for sure. I think just she's a solid lane bully and snowball through laning phase. You can set up the map through her global ult, and you can provide a lot of pressure for your team. You have to be really enjoying this kind of utility supportive playstyle though. She's quite, I think, like, for me, a lot less fun than a lot of other champs. And she doesn't have the raw 1v9 or carry potential that a lot of other champs has, but she has a really strong laning phase. They can transition into a strong mid game. And if you get ahead, you do a lot of damage, and you can easily carry fights that way. And then we have Xayah. So Xayah didn't get changed on this patch, but she got buffed on the previous patch. Overall, I thought she would be stronger than she was, but it's turned out that she didn't really get much stronger from the buff at all. And I would feel maybe comfortable putting her into high B tier, to be honest. I do not feel like she is that much of a menace. Maybe low A tier, high B tier, something like that. She just didn't feel as OP as I thought she would, and she just isn't insane, to be honest. She's still definitely a strong champion. I would put her maybe A tier. Nah, I think right next to Jinx, right next to Zeri. I feel like it's appropriate. I feel like this is really appropriate. I feel like for me, these two champions have very similar strengths right now. Both of them could either be low A tier or high B tier, something along that. And then we have Sivir. Sivir is whatever, kind of. I think C tier. He's just whatever. It's like, why would you play Sivir right now? Why would you play Sivir right now? I don't think she's anything special. And then we have TF. I think TF is just better on mid and top, to be honest. So I'm gonna put him into C tier as well. I don't see why you would play TF bot right now when you could play it mid or top instead. That way you would just have a better time. You just have a better time. We have Ziggs. I think really like whatever mage right now on bot. Low B tier for me. Crazy strong, not crazy weak. I think there's another mage that is way better in bot lane that we'll be covering later. And I'll tell you why I think that mage is way better. And then we have a Caitlyn here. I think Caitlyn falls into low B tier as well. I feel like she doesn't really have anything crazy going on about her right now. Doesn't have like a lot of the supports that she would like to be played aren't really played, and because of that she doesn't really feel too insane. I just don't feel like she has that, she doesn't really pack the punch that she needs to do to really feel that strong. And then Lucian for me is actually, I think this champ is kind of good, oddly enough. Even without Milio or Nami, this champion doesn't seem too bad. Doesn't seem too bad. I just, whenever I play against or with it, just seems pretty decent. I think something like this for B tier is pretty solid, I think. Then Kalista. I think Kalista is kinda weak right now in solo queue. Kinda weak. A lot of weird range supports that you don't really want to play with. A lot of Talia, which is really annoying. Some Poppy, which is really annoying. I think low B tier though. I don't think C tier. I feel like C tier is more like troll champs kinda, so I think low B tier for me feels more appropriate. It's definitely easier to win on Sivir than it is to win on Kalista, but I think Kalista as a champion is definitely stronger than Sivir in solo queue. Like, you have way more outplay potential. That's also why it's harder to win on her. And then Samira. I just played a game with Samira, and I think that perfectly showcased a lot of her weaknesses. I could even put her into C tier, to be honest. Maybe I put her into C tier, honestly. Nah, not C tier. Low B tier. Low B tier alongside Kalista. She just really needs a perfect game. She needs very low CC on enemy team. She needs a good bot lane matchup. She needs a good engaged support over Nata. And she needs her team to play well because she has really low damage early game, so it's mostly on her team to set her up and get her fed, and then if she gets fed, then she snowballs. But you have very little personal agency as Samira. Kalista's so OP in pro play because she has really good objective control, really good laning phase, really good safety for her support. Yeah, mostly for those reasons. In competitive play where it's more coordinated, you can make really well use of Kalista ult, and you can also just like have so good bot lane pressure that you force the enemy into playing something that isn't good scaling because they need to match your bot lane pressure or they get fucked on bot. And then Misfortune, I think I put her into C tier before, but underrated her a little bit. I think B tier, I think higher than Samira, Kalista, higher than Ziggs as well, even higher than Caitlyn, I think, maybe even higher than Ezreal. This champion is pretty good, especially in low elo. I think it's just quite the decent low elo stomper. If you're interested in a lethality champ to play in low elo, then I think Misfortune is a really good champ for you. Then Senna, I think Senna falls into C tier now. They've nerfed her quite a bit for farming. I think she's kind of weak on maybe both farming and fasting right now in solo queue. I don't really see her much on either roles, and I don't feel like she packs the same punch that she was doing before. And also a lot of the items that she was abusing on fasting has been nerfed, like the blood song and just support damage in general. And then Vayne, I think low B tier. She's still suffering from the nerf that she got a while ago, and she's fine, but pretty whatever. Better in low elo, as people are not as good at abusing your low range and your lack of wave clear. But other than that, like you could do the new tier for the low B tier champs, like split it up into another tier. Good. Let me move these fast. Okay, let's make it a bit easier and make it more, sure, I can make it more structured. Then I think, what champion stays in B+? I think Nilah, no. Well, let's move these first down to C. I think Nilah doesn't stay in B+. Which stays in B+. MF, no. Ezreal, no. Fate, no. Vayne? Low elo, yes. In high low, no. Something like this I like, I think. Something like this, yeah. Then Draven, I think really fucking OP. He got a really good buff, not this patch, but last patch. And overall, he's probably the most banned champion in the game, I'm pretty sure, especially in the US. And I think that says a lot about, you know, about the champ. He is the most banned champion in the game, yeah. Actually, Skarner is the most banned champion in the game, and then it's Draven. I think Draven is just so obnoxious to lane against. He has so much early game damage. He has pretty decent items, and he just has really good snowballing. The biggest counterplay to Draven is enemy jungler and your support. If your support sucks when you're playing Draven, it's going to be a tough time. And if enemy jungler is just camping you, it's going to be a tough time. But if one of those things are not happening, typically, you're going to be able to snowball the game. Then we got Hwei. So I think Hwei is the best mage in bot lane by far. The reason I think that is just because he has such a good laning phase. He has so good bully potential, and he can really fuck the enemy so fucking hard. And he's really good against mobile ADCs. He can really snowball bot lane, which most mages cannot, and that's why I think he deserves A tier. Then Jinx. Jinx is the other champion joining Draven in S tier. I think this Jinx buff, I don't want to say it was placebo, but it's very little. It's rare that you're using Jinx ult off cooldown, you know, and it's like 15 seconds rank 1, 10 seconds rank 2, 5 seconds rank 3. It's just like, I think it's also, it shows if you look at the change in win rate. She dropped one win rate by an astonishing 0.14%. Wow, she really got gutted, Kappa Giggity. So yeah, she's still S tier. Don't mind the fact that she got nerfed. It wasn't a real nerf. You should still play her. You should still abuse her. Then we got Smolder. So I actually tried a game of Smolder recently. I think I maybe even played 2 games of Smolder, because I was thinking that this champion is maybe not as bad as I thought. And then I actually played the game, and I got dove, I believe 5 or 6 times. And I do not believe that I was, personally, my gameplay was the reason I was getting dove. It was just due to my champion being so weak that I could not contest the enemy bot lane 2v2 or in trades, that it just ended up being that way. I really struggled, and I think this champion is quite weak right now. I do, however, think that if this tier list was just for low elo, I could even put Smolder B+. Because if you get to 25 minutes, 30 minutes, you are going to be very strong in the game. But if you are playing against good players that are looking to punish you, that are looking to dive you, champ sucks. The champ sucks. It's really hard to pull off. But to find a balance, a compromise, I think we put him into low B tier. And then we got Seraphine. I think very similar to Ziggs, but I think Ziggs and Seraphine, for me, both should go into low B tier. Both should go into low B tier. Well, now we're crowding the B tier again, but that's fine. That's fine. Just both of these mages, very NPC gameplay, just clearing waves. If you're playing against them, buy Cull, go 10 CS a minute, and you'll carry, okay? You'll carry late game. You are outscaling them, and I believe in you, Beast. You got this. Jhin, I think Jhin, for me, is A tier now. The buff that he got recently was really fucking nice, and I think he's one of the, if not the best, utility ADC. He has a pretty decent win rate with a decent pick rate. If we have a look at a bit like larger time frame, you can see like nearly 53% win rate. Really good solid stats overall. And just the buff was very noticeable and nice. It's my go-to pick if my support locks in a range champ like a mage or something like that, and I want to go for a poke lane. And overall, it's just a champ that I enjoy a lot and can be played kind of as a spellcaster or like a crit the fast type of vibe. Varus here. Let's put Varus into, I think his win rate in solo queue is pretty ass, but I feel like he should be in B+. He's just like a solid pick that can go either lethality or he can go on hit, and he has a lot of versatility in that sense, and he can bring a lot to the table that other champions simply cannot bring. I think he's B+ for that reason. He has a really good laning phase. You can go either on hit or lethality depending on enemy comp. If they're squishy, you go lethality. If they're tanky, you go on hit. And then we got Tristana. I think Tristana B+. Veteran mid lane, but pretty good in bot lane. Kind of like sleeper, I think. If you have a lane that you can jump into, like your versus Xayah, Zeri, which even Lucian to some extent. Yeah, Jhin can be good. And you can jump in. I think this champion can be really solid. Xayah, I think B+ as well. Quite situational, but like she can be really strong if the situations meet her demands. If they have a team that's all coming into you, all diving into you, a solid dive comp with a lot of melee champs, she can be an S tier champ. She can be really good. The problem is, in every game of League of Legends, you're going to face different champions, and you're going to have different champs on your team. So it's not consistent to always face the same type of champs. So that's why I put her into B+. But she's a champion that if you see that enemy has like a Sylas mid, an Aatrox top, a Viego jungle, and Samira rel bot lane, it's a crazy Xayah game. That's a crazy Xayah game right there. Because you're going to be able to kite all of them, and you're going to be able to have all of them come into your feathers and just fuck them up. We got Aphelios. I think Aphelios B+ as well, low B+. Overall, a tough champion to make work in solo queue for most players, but I believe he has a decent bit of power in his kit, and I believe he benefited. He was one of the biggest winners of the IE and LDR buff out of every champ, but just due to the nature of his kit, it's hard for most people to get a lot of success on this champion. And for that reason, most people, when they ask me if they recommend me to play Aphelios, I say no, because it's a big time investment and he's a very difficult champion to play. For me though, he's the most fun champion in the game alongside Draven, and I do have a guide on him over at Hector at Aphelios. Aphelios, you can see it if you want to learn how to play him. It's a pretty big investment, so if you're not really interested, then might not be, you know, the champ for you, because it's something that you got to put time into to both learn the guns, get familiar with the guns, and then also get good at positioning as an immobile ADC. So yeah, I think that is the tier list for patch 14.9. I kind of like how this all looks. I like the fact that we added the B+. I think that really puts a chef's kiss on it all. I don't think any champ's really into D tier here, but I like how all of it ended up holding out.